Hi guys, so happy that all of you could be here for our second discussion on this topic. We are hoping to dive a little bit more deeper into some of the things that we discussed yesterday. We have a fresh set of panelists today, and we will see how the discussion goes. And after all of the questions are over, we shall have a Q&A with everybody participating in that. Okay, let's get started. Oops. Okay, first question. What are some of the biases you have felt within the club, on or off the field? And I think we could begin with TJ.
Hello. Yeah. So I can talk about some biases I've felt personally. So one is, of course, like a gender bias, mostly on field. Um, do you want me to talk a little more about this, or just
Sure.
how do you want to
Whatever
take
you
this
want to
forward?
share, please go ahead.
Yeah, so gender bias in terms of my abilities on the field, and uh, when I've been picked for roles, or when I've been assigned for roles, I've seen a little bit of a gender bias there. And I've also witnessed a couple of other biases. Like, I don't really know what to name these, but I'm just going to go and state these. I think there has been some sort of a bias towards newcomers. I've also seen that improve of late. But when I talk about newcomer bias, we tend to go ahead and roster a lot of these newcomers on the list, or for the team. But the opportunity we give these newcomers on the field is either nil or very less. I feel like I have seen this bias before. And I've also seen, I don't know if I should put this under the category of a bias, but I'm just going to go ahead and state it. Like, there is always some sort of a preconceived idea uh, about a player. And sometimes it might be individual, sometimes it might be from the entire team or from a group of people. And I have seen this affect me on a personal level, where if I could just explain it in terms of an experience on the field. Mm, when we tend to practice, or my previous experiences at Airbenders, we tend to practice as an offense line or a defense line, or with a game plan like a hex, or any other strategy, right? When we do that, the entire focus is on what role I'm playing and what I am doing on my point of view. And I've seen this change in crucial games, in crucial points. Either I have not been chosen to play that particular role I've been practicing, or someone else is replacing. I don't know why this happens, but I do feel that there is some sort of a bias there. So I thought I'd just mention this.
Great.
Yeah.
Vijay, would you like to add to it? Oh, sorry. Are you done, TJ?
Yeah, I'm done. Taman.
Cool. Okay. Shall we move on to Vijay?
Yeah. I personally haven't felt biased. I mean, so many years of playing, I've felt all right about it, and I've been comfortable about a lot of things. But as a captain, I have had discussions with players where we've discussed certain um, situations where the player felt uh, being having an unfair situation in comparison to others, be it in uh, the number of points that they play, be it in selections, be it in the opportunity that they have on the field. For example, they're not being thrown to, or they're not allowed to make enough decisions on the field. So these are situations that I've come across as a captain. Uh, so yeah, that's what I have to add.
Sorry, Sam, would you add to that?
Yeah. So I think I have a couple of things that I'd like to add. Again, both of these things are like, maybe they have explanations, but I still think that I need to bring these up. So one thing is, over the last couple of years in recruitment, we have been very biased against guys, to the extent that I know that we've turned away guys who show up for practice whereas for girls we're very encouraging. And like I understand that there are reasons, but that is still something that as a club we need to figure out how to work on. Secondly, I think that in some scenarios, what happens is uh, people who are perceived to have less skill, their opinions and their feedback is not considered as much. So when someone who people presume is not as good as they are or as the others are, they don't listen to that person, right? Sometimes to the extent of disrespecting them instead of taking that feedback. So just because they are not as good a player doesn't mean that their feedback is not meaningful. And I've seen that, I mean, I understand that it occurs across all fields, but again, I think that's something that needs to be pointed out so that we can figure out how to be better individuals in general. I think those are the ones that I wanted to address.
Sure. Great. Divya, your views, please.
Yeah, so I think I personally feel that we have and we experience a lot of biases in general in day-to-day lives. I would like to state that I feel extremely proud that I'm part of Ultimate Community where the barriers or the biases are at least minimal or try to be minimal, be it age, be it economical conditions, or be it age or gender. But when it comes to airbenders, while we will ponder upon gender bias specifically further in this discussion, one thing which I uh, wanted to add was, I think it's in similar lines with what Sam has to say. I think we give a lot of importance to perceived credibility. I named it that. I think it is, and this perceived credibility plays a lot of role in terms of connections and chemistry building on and off fields. And I feel this is a very personal view that for any organization, be it a sports firm or a business firm or any organization, to grow beyond from good to great, we need to be more open to ideas beyond this perceived credibility. We should encourage players to give ideas, because we never know where a good idea will come from. And a new player might feel that their growth pattern might not be as much if they played with airbenders because of this perceived credibility. That's what I like to add.
Great. Thanks, Divya. So, what are some of the privileges that some of us enjoy while some of us miss out on within the club? And I think I'd like to start with Sam for this question.
Yeah, hi. So I think there's a definition of privilege here, but I think I'd also like to explore that a little bit more so that we can be on the same page. So the way that I look at it, a privilege is any feature that we have that, one, we didn't necessarily do anything to get, and second is we gives us some advantage in some domain, right? So by itself, privilege is a little charged word. So I'll just take a kind of simple example. So since we're all sports people, one of the most important privileges that we can think of is genetics, right? So for example, I have height, I have like hand size, things like this, which give me a huge advantage while playing, but I didn't do anything. I didn't drink Complan. I didn't do anything to get these. So, but the same thing, two more things. One is that the privileges that you have, you don't tend to consider them as privileges. And secondly, what gives you an advantage in one place might give you a disadvantage somewhere else. So for example, if I'm traveling by bus, the same thing is now like a disadvantage because it's not as comfortable. I mean, of course, this is a very trivial example, but I just wanted to kind of put out there that when some people say that privileges don't exist, I feel that we need to have a broader understanding of the concept. So there are other much more meaningful or things that matter much more on a day-to-day. Things like different circumstances of your birth, like race, religion, gender, wealth, etc., which all play a much bigger role on a day-to-day. So for the sake of this discussion, I'll just like talk about like wealth. So some of us are born into richer families and needn't be very rich, but still after one certain level, it means that we have much more access to resources and opportunities. We can go for tournaments without having to think whether, do I have to miss work and catch a train, or should I attend the tournament? Similarly for international tournaments, buying shoes, buying discs, going like gym memberships, personal trainers, as well as some social events, right? Like after practice, we go for breakfast, and that actually adds up. If you don't have so much, that just those breakfasts and juice, etc., all adds up, right? So this is just like one of the things I'd like to talk about. I think if there's more time, I have a few more points, but let the others discuss this as well.
Sure. Teach?
Yeah, sorry, Madhu. I was
No
on
worries.
mute.
No worries.
I think Sam put out a lot of good points. Just adding to that, I think when it comes to the membership of the main team or playing for the main team, I feel like the female players of our team have a privilege, like the competition level on the kind of just like things the male players go to, like in numbers or anything like that. It's not the same for female players in our team currently. So I do see a privilege for female players in our team that way. Having said that, adding to the points about how Sam said that he's just taller and the other privileges he has. I feel just on those terms, men also have a lot of privilege on the field. They just physically, they have a lot of strength, stamina, and just their performance on the field is sometimes higher than female players. And this kind of plays a large role in what the female players should be doing on the field. Like when, like I previously mentioned, like when we are picking roles for a specific lineup. I've been in the situation where if it is a tougher role or the team sees that as a tougher role, generally a male player is preferred, despite you being equally fast or equally good with skill set. I still feel like there are privileges for both male and female in their own ways on the field.
Sure.
Yeah, that's about it.
Great. Vijay, you want to go?
Yeah. So as far as privileges is concerned, yes, there are certain privileges, and especially to decision-making roles. I mean, I can tell you from the perspective of being a captain, quite often I take decisions when I'm a captain on what someone else has to do. So that can be looked at as a privilege, because quite often I have players coming back to me saying, okay, maybe I should play in that role, I should play in this role, while on the go, on the field, there are quite a lot of decisions that are taken, not only as a, that is one example, as I mean, being a captain, but generally privileges, quite a few privileges are attached with people who are in decision-making roles. While I also understand both Sam and TJ's views in terms of having privileges on a personal level, where maybe because maybe the male is getting more privilege over a female, or maybe height and whatever Sam said, right? So those privileges are something that, yes, we have to work towards and see if we can get to a place where things are evened out. But as far as decision-making roles are concerned, I think it becomes tough. I'm telling this from my personal view, where it becomes tough. Sometimes there are 5 different aspects that you have to look for when maybe you call the line. One player will look at one particular aspect, while another player will look at another aspect. So it sometimes becomes tough and mistakes are made. I understand that, but privileges, I mean, overall are attached to decision-making roles. I mean, that's what I have to say.
Sure. Talib, would you like to go now?
Yeah, Madhu. Yeah. So as Sam, as Sam told, privileges, advantages, and all. So it was taking individual person, and Madhu, TJ and Vijay, they both told about the team. What does team privileges stands for? So the thing is, if we go on with a team, there are certain privileges which comes as an advantage and a disadvantages also. So if it teams goes together, it's a greatest advantage for any team to stand on any nationals or anything it might be. So it just everyone has to work together for making a team advantages. So we know that everyone has their own advantage on the field, off the fields, own own things to do, own decisions. So as a captain, it just makes everyone on a single pace to work on it. So it's yeah, it's just working with everyone will make us to get a great advantage and
Great. Talib, would you like to maybe tell me a little bit about if you personally felt that you have an advantage over somebody else on anything on the field or off the field, or if you personally felt like you've had a disadvantage over somebody on the field or off the field?
off the field, I don't know.
Okay.
But on the field, if we take advantage, like I might have running skill or skying anything, but I might lag in experience. Like people who are more experienced, they can just shut me down, like with the experience what they have with them. So it also experience matter how we use our experience against the players also. So it's not that athlete works, experience also works.
Great. Thanks, Talib. Yeah.
Just thought I'd mention here that we have selected panel members for certain questions, just to be more efficient with time. So just so everyone knows. I think they know that from the last session, but just a reminder. So you'll hear from some panel members at certain points in the session, and you won't hear from some as well.
So the next question that we're going into is, has gender bias affected you personally on or off the field? And I think I'd like to get started with Ananya.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to gender bias, for me, there hasn't been any like major instance, but I've realized that there is one aspect of it that kind of affects me, and I'm guessing others too. And that's to do with expectations. So this is to do with like expectations of what a player's performance would look like based on their gender. So now I'm not saying that this is an issue that's, you know, very blatantly visible. Rather, it's more like an underlying preset assumption that I'm guessing many of us just subconsciously end up making. So like one example is to do with the type of throws that you'd expect a female player to make versus a male player. Like, say we see a player with the disc in a tight position on the field. If the player is a female, like what are the first options we might expect or imagine them to throw versus if it's a male? So like maybe at least for me, sometimes I'd instinctively think that the female player would be more likely to take a safer pass, just pass it to the dump handler, get it to safety before it's a stall out. And like for a guy also, of course, that's the same objective, pass the disc somewhere before it's too late. But I might just find it easier to imagine a guy throwing something a bit more like out there, like maybe a scuba or a hammer, maybe even squeezing in some space for a longer throw, something that I might not necessarily imagine a female player to do. So it's just like these expectations of sorts have consequences on the field, is what I feel. Like when I personally find myself in such a tight position, I might hesitate more for taking that slightly like riskier pass because I know it's something that's usually not done. I mean, it's not that I'd have the exact thought of like not taking the shot because of my gender, but it's just to do with that underlying assumption that's just been like instilled based on what I see. So that's just like one thing I have noticed. Another thing which I thought of when it comes to gender difference, this is more like a personal notion. I was thinking about last regionals, and this kind of came to mind then. It was about how I felt when playing the single gender matches versus the mixed matches. So I realized when playing single gender, I found myself playing with a lot more stability of sorts and more like confidence in general. But then when playing mixed, I felt like a different kind of intensity. Like it was intensity mixed with a bit more of pressure, I'd say, and like a much larger need to, really perform well. Like, of course, that was there for the single gender regionals as well, but in the mix, it just came with a comparatively larger need to prove myself as well. So, like, I'm not sure if that's the same with guy players. If like, they also feel that higher need to perform well and prove themselves in mixed compared to men's. So like, in all, since it happens like here, it got me thinking, like, why do I need to prove myself more? Or like, why do I feel more conscious about my mistakes when playing mixed as opposed to women's? When both kind of, fetched us the same points. It's just something I was thinking about, and yeah, thought I'd say it.
Great, thanks, Ananya. Very well put. Divya, would you like to continue?
Yeah. So these are. I'd like to state that these are my very personal views, and I'm not sure how many of you will resonate with it or not. Personally, I'm not sure if I can pick out certain instances, but I want to leave the team with three thoughts that I feel somehow in a subconscious level how gender bias affects. First is that I think due to the current availability of number of people competing for a particular position, we obviously know that there are more men competing for a same number of, like 10 people we need for team A, and 30 men might be competing for it, and 10 women we need for team A, and maybe 15 women might be competing for it. I feel that subconsciously somewhere when a particular female player makes it to a team, even though she might have a similar capability with as much as a male player, maybe it is seen as if that she is slightly undeserving than the male player. And the issue is that I think it percolates in the team culture, and unfortunately I don't think I've seen this in the other two teams I've played with, my college team and Storm, and it kind of shows on the field, and that's why I feel maybe the female players trusting the female players automatically comes into people's mind, because maybe somewhere they might think that, hey, you just had to fight with 5 more people to pick that spot, versus I had to fight so many people to pick that spot. That is one thought which I feel affects gender bias in Airbenders. Second is, as Ananya mentioned, I do agree with it 100%. I would take an example of Sakat. There was this particular game where we played, I think, against Sticks. We literally had 8 girls on the line, and we the kind of job everybody has done was phenomenal in that match. And it just I think everybody should think about it in terms of why in single gender does the women perform 1.5x times or 2x times their normal capacity. Why do they step up? I'm not pointing out to a particular gender over here. It could be possible that I myself put a lot of pressure when playing mixed, as Ananya said, that I want to prove myself more, or it could also be that there's a lot of pressure on the female players when playing in a mixed, because it is very clear when you play single gender that our women perform much better that is the second thought I wanted to leave. And third thought might be slightly controversial, but I feel in this team, when a new female player comes, I think in the existing female players feel more threatened than welcoming. It's a very personal feeling that I have. So I think we should look at it. I mean, maybe it's something that we all need to think about, and how do we make a new female player entry less threatening and more competitively. We should look at it as a competition and less in a very threatening way. So these are the three thoughts which I had on gender bias and which I want the team to think about when they are on the field next time during practice or tournaments.
I think we go with the same question to TJ.
So to answer the question, has gender bias affected you personally? Yes, it has affected me personally on a lot of occasions, and mostly on field. And I also spent a little time, like how Ananya mentioned, in terms of expectations and pressure. Even Divya mentioned the point of feeling pressure. I 100% agree with them that there is always some expectations and pressure when you're performing in a mixed lineup. And I realized this especially after playing all women regionals. Like the kind of confidence and the games we played and how we performed. I didn't expect it from even me as a player. I didn't know I would be able to do those plays and make those game-changing passes or whatever. But I also think on the other side, on the other end, where when you talk about expectation, when you're playing a mixed game, I don't think, or this is my point of view, I think that the male players don't have enough expectations from the female players, that they do not expect you to make the passes they make, or they do not expect you to lead um, the line in certain ways, like how they would play as a dominant handler or a dominant cutter. I think that also subconsciously affects us in a lot of ways. Like it has personally hampered my confidence. Like there are a lot of times where the main players would just overlook me despite me being in the right position, me being open, and they would always prefer, or they would sometimes prefer overlooking me and still taking a riskier pass or a throw to advance the disc. I don't know why this happens, and I have seen this happen even in our practice sessions, that the expectations from a female player might not, it's not the same from the male players. It's what I feel when I'm playing on the lineup. And that's why I feel this constant pressure on myself, that I need to keep proving to my teammates that I can do this. I know what I'm capable of doing. So this is the kind of, on a personal level, it's affected me, like in terms of trust. Like I feel like my line doesn't trust me enough, that they think maybe I'm not, my skill sets might not be good enough to make that throw or be in that lineup, or just things like that. In terms of hampering my confidence on so many points, it has played a large role. I really hope to understand this a little deeper, as to why I feel this pressure and why I feel this bias in a mixed game. Uh, and I've been spending some time, especially after the regionals which happened. It's been an eye opener after playing single gender.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, TJ. I think hopefully through these sessions, we shall find out the answer and solve it for everyone. Talib, would you like to answer?
Madhu. Yeah, I don't think so. It has been affected me in any way.
Okay.
So
Sure, that's fine.
there is nothing to tell. So it's just that what we do, we get it out.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. So men has also the same thing. Like we are some 20 good players, 20 to 25 good men players also playing, wanting to play for one team. but it's just that we play.
Okay. Good. Okay. Thanks,
Nothing
Talib.
to tell on gender basis, Madhu. Yeah.
Okay, Talib. Thank you. I think then we'll move on to the next question, and we will come back to other questions later. Okay. So if we were to, this is a hypothetical question. So if we were to have a non-binary athlete join us tomorrow, what would you do to make them feel more comfortable? And just to, I think we can, actually, let's begin with Ananya on this one. We can, I think, come back to questions later.
Yeah.
Ananya, are you here?
So yeah. So if this were to happen, there were a few things I thought of, and the first is to do with the gender ratio with which we play. So like the rules say that it's 5 males, 4 female, or vice versa, and that is a binary version of it. So we can't really do anything to like change the very rules, but I thought if this were to happen, we could do something during our like practice sessions. So like I was reading up about it, and I came across another sport which is also mixed gender, and it's also played with 7-a-side. And it's called Quidditch, but I'm not talking about the Harry Potter Quidditch. There's actually a sport which is like adapted from that, and like people actually play it in real life. But the point is, their gender ratio rule states that a maximum of 4 players of the same gender can be on the line. So, and it's played with 7-a-side. So they're not stating that the other 3 have to be of the opposite gender or anything. It's just that with a max of 4 of one gender, it's obvious that the other 3 also have to be of the other gender or genders. So it just seems like a lot much more inclusive. So if we were to have another player like who's non-binary, I guess this would just make them feel more inclusive as well. So that was one thing I saw.
That's very interesting. Divya, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think this was one of the difficult questions I had to like prepare for. And I could not come up with any extraordinary answer or any different answer. I think I will try to talk to them like I would try to converse with that person like I would with any new player who's coming onto the field. I think I always believed in openness, so I think I will be very honest that I currently lack no knowledge on how to handle it. So maybe I will take their opinion in terms of how I can learn more about how do I converse with them, or about this whole pronouns situation, or if that person even want to be bothered with such questions or not. I think I'll try to be open and openly ask them, or try to clear my doubts and treat him like any other player, and treat them like any other player. I think that would be my approach to make them as comfortable as possible if any non-binary person comes.
Before I move on to the next person, Divya, very proud of you for instantly recognizing how you could do better in switching. So extremely, extremely proud. So I think that's one thing that all of us should do in our dialogue. Okay, moving to Vijay.
I would generally start with how I start with any new player, probably with a conversation, trying to understand the person and overall maybe talking about the team and trying to have a friendly conversation and promoting that person to talk to other people. It's just about being friendly and friendly. I don't know where the conversation would lead to, but just go with the flow and just make sure that we come to a state where that person could feel a sense of happiness and a sense of maybe learning, a sense of being part of something bigger. Maybe try and move the conversation to something like that, and see how it leads from there. But probably try and include that person in a lot of things that the team does.
Sorry, I'm going to instantly switch this question a little bit before I continue with the next person. I'm just winging it, guys, so please bear with me. So if we were to introduce or talk about airbenders to a non-binary athlete, imagine they're joining us tomorrow for a session and we want to now say, okay, so this is airbenders. What would we say to them? So Sam, maybe could you answer?
Can you clarify that question?
So this is what you could do to make them feel comfortable. Now I'm asking if you were to have Shireen, could you maybe mute? Yeah, so what I was asking is if you were to introduce airbenders or talk about airbenders to a non-binary athlete, what would you say to them first? Like what would be the first set of, I don't know, like what would be the first sentence that you tell them? What would be the first paragraph that you tell them about airbenders as a club?
All right, so I guess what Vijay and Divya said was the most relevant, that I think as far as possible, we shouldn't make that a like salient feature about that person, that's just one aspect of them, right? And I think the most important thing to make them feel comfortable is to not point it out and make it like up for everyone to see, unless they prefer it that way. So I think just continuing on the same thing, which we already actually should be doing now, as discussed in Jaideep's podcast, and I think last meeting as well, that we are very used to using gender pronouns. I think that's the biggest change that we need to make as a team. And as individuals, like even I know that there are some words like man, dude, bro, guys, which we just use in our heads. They're non-gender neutral, but the actual words need not be. Like even today in the group, Madhu posted, hey guys, this is the schedule. Whereas like we need to make an effort on our side that, catch ourselves when we do that and figure out how we can improve. So that is regardless of who were to join us. I think that's a good move to make. I think I was first made aware of this by when we play against Sloppy Disk, and they are very particular about this point, right? So they'll be on the other side of the field and they will be screaming at us, no, it's mark your person. And we just lost because you're playing offense. Why are you saying mark? And then we understood, okay, they're trying to help us, overcome this. And it's going to be a slow effort. It's going to take some time, but I think that's the biggest thing that we can put an effort towards. Apart from that, at least from my side, I think the most important thing is just treat them as another teammate, and if something more is required, then hope that they can feel comfortable enough to bring it up.
Great, thank you, Sam. Very well put. I think that's it with our questions. We are now open for questions from everybody who's here. So fire away, and you have the full panel to answer. You can ask any of us here.
Can I just add a couple of points I noted while the panelists were talking?
Yeah.
I think we've talked a couple of times, I think on this session and the last one, about how women have like an easier or a privilege when it comes to selection, making it into the team. And it was mentioned that they're only competing against the other women in the team, so there might be 15 women competing for 10 spots, whereas there might be 30 men competing for 10 spots or something like this, whatever. But I think we often forget that looking beyond selection, we're forgetting about roles on the team. And this is something I think we brought up last time, but things like primary handler, short deep, first cut, chase in the zone, preferred receivers. These are often where I think non-male players are marginalized more, and men have a privilege. So I think the selection is one part of it, but I think it's a completely different thing when it comes to looking at the roles within the team. You know, especially if we're looking at this year where there is no selection, we're just putting everybody into the team at the same time. Then how much of a privilege do male players enjoy when it comes to things like being the primary handler, picking up the disc first, making the first cut, playing, you know, going deep, those kind of things. This is one point. Building off something that Ananya said about like the expectations from people who have the disc, I think it also is reflected in the way that we cut, the way that we as a team cut for certain throwers. When we see a certain player holding the disc, we cut in a different way. We don't go deep, we cut very close to them. We ask for it repetitively, saying, you know, dedo, give the disc, give, throw, whatever. We're more likely to criticize as well following the play. I think a couple of times, so on a third point is that we've had a couple of people say gender bias doesn't affect me, or I've not noticed, not that they've not noticed it, but it doesn't, I don't have anything to add here because it's not impacted me. And I think this is of course, that's a very personal way of looking at it. But I think if we look at it as a ecosystem, as a family, and as a group, I think we're all victims of gender bias, because if we see others being treated unfairly or unequally, then we're all going to suffer. We're all going to be suffering that inequality, that unfairness, because it affects us as a team when other people are being treated unequally or being discriminated against, right? So I think gender bias affects us all, in spite of whether we feel like personally we've not been singled out. And then the final point was just around when we talk about being more inclusive of non-binary genders, I think we just have to educate ourselves a lot better. It's not just about using pronouns. We're putting up this notion that it's just pronouns. That's all it is. If we do that, then we're good. We're good to go. But there's actually a lot around it, and so much that we don't know, because it's something that's come to light only in the recent years. So I think education is probably the way forward and the area that we need to focus on. That's it. Sorry.
Thanks, Jaideep. That's okay. I think, Vijay, you had something to add to question number 3. Would you like to go now?
Yeah. So when I think when Ananya mentioned about the regionals where the single gender regionals, and how they felt the pressure when they came to the mixed gender. This is something I saw as well. I remember this particular match, if I'm right, where Airbenders, the women team, played against L2, if I remember right. And just to see them play during that game was something that I've never seen a lot of those girls play before. I mean, it was phenomenal, just because the whole joy of playing, it felt like they were playing because they loved the sport. It felt like they were playing because they just liked holding the disc. And 2 months after that, when we had a mixed game during the next tournament, I could see a lot of difference in terms of how overall the mood was. I mean, there's a tendency, there's an underlying pressure to perform, like TJ said, and like a few others said. There's an underlying pressure to perform, and I could see how the fun element was lost. How and it was, as a captain, I was the captain for that game, and it was becoming tougher for me to understand why that was happening. I still haven't figured that out. But there's a tendency for a lot of male players uh, to give opinions and advices to female players more than they would give the male players. I saw that difference happening. Uh, for example, when the boys played single gender, that didn't happen as much. But when it turned out to be a mixed game, it happened a lot more. So there are things that I think uh, everyone, like Jaideep rightly pointed out, right? That whether you personally get affected by gender bias or not, if you find that it is happening in the team, there are things that you can do, whether you step out, whether you take such roles where you make decisions, whatever that is. But as a captain, it was difficult. I could see that change, but I felt quite helpless to do certain things because in moments of, like TJ spoke about the roles, right? Now let us say we have a uh, I've been guilty of this as well. When I call out roles, I tend to uh, play female players on the wings, on defense, more than I play them maybe a short deep, and things like that. And when there are situations that, okay, we have to win that point and things like that, it as a captain, I found it difficult to overcome that. Maybe it is something that I have to learn personally. I have to understand how to do it. But it's a very common tendency to fall back on something, saying, I think this will work and let us just go with it, rather than maybe saying, okay, let me try that in that crucial point. So I understand where TJ and a bunch of others are coming from, but I haven't found a solution. So I just thought I could tell this out as a captain. It becomes sometimes, it sometimes becomes tough to do things, because there are 10 other things in your mind, and very difficult to understand at that moment whether this is right or wrong. It becomes tough, and maybe it is a learning process. Maybe you understand as you go, but happy to see more spoken about these things from a view of decision making roles, and uh, not just about personally whether you're affected, but also if you have to take a decision, what would you do? I think that is an area that we as a team have to grow, because we've had very few people uh, in those kinds of roles. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Vijay. So guys, I'm opening the questions to everybody. So if you think that there's a crucial question that we should have asked and haven't asked, please ask us right now. If you would like to give us your take on any of the questions, we are here to listen. This is the time for us to discuss these things. So please just comment or just unmute yourself and start talking.
Madhu, I would like to add a few points to what Vijay just spoke, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since Vijay mentioned that he's trying to understand why there is a difference when women play single gender and when we play mixed player. Even I've been spending a lot of time, especially after we came back and we played the regionals as a mixed team. As he mentioned, I completely agree with the feedback we receive as from the male players. Adding to that, I also want to tell you that when we played single gender, I did not see women players give feedback to each other as much as we generally receive feedback. We always probably came back as a team later to discuss what can we do better. Never really discussed what went wrong, or I wouldn't say what went wrong, like, oh, you did this, or not really pinpoint each other. I did not see that happen. I felt like a lot in my previous experiences, not recently, but then in my past experiences playing with the team, I would always get feedback like, you should have probably done this, and I wouldn't have had the space to analyze it myself and really understand it myself and have the opportunity to correct it. And this happens even in a practice session. I'm not just saying in an actual game. Even in a practice session, I feel like in terms of practicing my freedom of doing anything or whatever I visualize that, okay, I want to do this particular pass or I want to play like this in defense. I don't know if I have that enough freedom to practice it even in a practice session when I'm playing in a mixed gender. But I did experience that sort of freedom when I'm playing a single gender, and I'm playing a tournament in a single gender, and I did see that we gradually improved, and the level of game we played from our first game to the last match we played against in the single gender regions was the difference of the skill set and the confidence we were playing with was uh, starkly different, from the first game to the last game. It was evident that we knew what we were doing, and we had the confidence to take those crossfield huck or even play a hard shot deep. we did not doubt ourselves. Uh, it is just more than again, as you mentioned, I think it's a long-term practice. We have to be aware of how we give feedback and who we give feedback to, and how often we give feedback or not give feedback at all, and rethink the whole idea of how we want to practice as a team on the whole.
If I may add on why probably why single gender women team performs, I think I think for me it is, I feel like I'm more responsible and I can be a decision maker in a single gender game versus in a mixed sport where I feel I just have to ensure that my role as that particular player is fulfilled, and not, I mean, I don't think I make myself accountable for bigger decisions or bigger decisions that happens in the game. I just feel myself accountable that, hey, as Divya, I'm playing a right wing, so my for me it's just to ensure that I do that job very well. But when I played a wing on a single gender match, I felt I was much more responsible and much more accountable if something went wrong. So my decision making was probably quicker. And I would like to correlate it with, so when I the same thing happened when I played with my college team, and that happened because probably because as a college team we were all learning together, and um, so I did not feel insecure or underconfident with my peers. Um, so maybe that responsibility and accountability increases when we play a single gender sport, as opposed to, and I wouldn't say it's completely on the other gender or the whole team. I think it's also on us that we don't feel that, or we try to overcome that to showcase our skill set on mixed sport as well.
Divya, I would like to understand this a bit better. So could you help me through your, what do you say? I don't want to say thought process, but your thoughts while you're playing, when you said you have more responsibilities when you're playing single gender, playing the same role in a single gender versus playing the same role or the same position in mixed gender, right? Did I get that right? Yeah. So could you explain what do you mean by responsibilities? What are you doing differently while you're playing single gender versus while you're playing mixed gender, though you're playing the exact same role in the exact same position?
Okay, on the top of my mind, I feel that I can make the decision, and I don't feel maybe judged a lot on the decision that the consequence of the decision that I take.
That is with which this thing, with mixed or with single gender?
Like, I think I take more bold decisions or more decisions in a much stronger way, um, without actually thinking that the consequence of it might be judged or might make me more accountable or whatever. As opposed to in mixed sport, I feel like if I wrong, maybe in my own self, I feel like I might not get to play the next point, or that I think those kind of biases are there in my mind, which make me constrained in my own mind when I play mixed versus single gender.
Okay, just to kind of interpret this differently. So does it not differently, but interpret the way I kind of interpret it? Is it, do you somehow fear being judged or punished for having taken a decision, having taken maybe an unlikely or a bold decision on the field while you're playing mixed gender, and that kind of fear of punishment or fear of being questioned is taken away when you're playing single gender? Is that what it is?
Probably, as in, we could put it that way, because that similar thing wasn't there in my college team as well, and that's why I feel like I took decisions, not necessarily the right ones, but yes, I took decisions.
Okay, and if I could just understand this better, what do you think creates that kind of I don't want to say fear of punishment, but what makes you think that your decisions are going to be questioned or judged or assessed more in mixed gender versus single gender?
Okay, I think it will need a longer introspection into myself, but if I have to answer right now, it would be a part of my own biases that I want to live up to, or I want to ensure that I get more playtime, or I ensure that I am on the field more. Um, that's probably my own bias, versus also people not taking that much bet on me if I take bolder decisions. Um, I also feel this links back to Airbenders being slightly conservative, or they've evolved. I mean, I'm sure we've evolved a lot over the last 1-2 years, but I think we are still slightly conservative and safe when it comes to very critical points. I think we tend to go back to our safer methods, and yeah, that makes me feel like they doubt me, so I don't tend to take that decision.
Cool. Now I'm opening the same question to like all the girls who are here. I think we have quite a few. So to all of you, to how many of you feel like there is difference in pressure levels, or you have fear of being assessed extra or judged differently while you're playing mixed gender versus single gender? I'm going to randomly start calling out names. Sheep, could you maybe pitch in with your thoughts?
Yeah, I was listening to the whole thing and what Divya said. And yes, it's true. I do feel a lot less pressure while playing in a single gender format rather than in a mixed format. And I largely agree with what Divya says as well, that I do tend to take more risks because you feel less not judged, that's not the thing, but I don't know, you feel more in control of things, and like you have more control over the consequences of what you do also. Yes, it's true. I'm not able to completely get to it, but that's a good starting point that Divya came to, which was that you do tend to take more risks. It's true.
Cool. I think we have
Madhu. Madhu, this is Nikita.
Yes, hi Nikki.
First of all, hi everybody. Yeah, I'm joining the session after a really long time. It's so nice to see all of you. Regarding what Divya mentioned, right? I think this is just my thought. I was just thinking about what everyone said. Whenever a female makes a mistake in a mixed gender game, right? I think that mistake tends to stay on in everybody's mind throughout the game. And as a result of that, say, for example, let me take my example. I make a mistake in, say, the 5th point of the game, and I make the same mistake again in the 7th point of the game. And after that, there is a lot of hesitancy from the other team members to throw the disc, as opposed to if the other gender makes the same mistake over and over again, there is that trust within the team, right? Within the guys, basically, let me say guys, yeah, they keep making the same throws, even if it doesn't connect, that keeps happening. That is mainly because of the trust they have on each other, right? I think that is missing when it comes to the throw being made to a female from a male, or from a male basically. And in the single gender game, I don't think there is that pressure, right? And even if there is a mistake that is being made, I feel that the environment is a lot more positive and they are okay with taking such risks. And that is why I see that, most of the female players are comfortable playing single gender and enjoy a lot more playing single gender than the mixed gender games.
Chakshu, would you like to go?
Yeah. Hi, guys. So I'd been thinking a lot about the expectations thing that Ananya spoke about. And while thinking about it and like reading about it, I figured out that it actually has a name. It's called the Pygmalion effect. And I think it explains a lot of what most of us are talking here about. So what it basically says is how you perceive a person affects the outcome. So like, say you expect someone to be good at the game, for example, you tend to look at their mistakes differently from someone who you don't think is as good. And you also tend to give them more opportunities. And because of that, they tend to grow faster. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy about like the people that you think are good tend to become better because you perceive them to be like that, and hence give them more opportunities and treat what they do differently. And like vice versa, if you don't think someone is as good, you look at their mistakes differently. And we don't do this on purpose, of course. We're not thinking about it and saying, okay, I don't think you're good, I'm not going to give you the opportunity. You do it without realizing you are. And I think that happens. At least I think I've noticed it happening. Yeah, that's one thing I've been thinking about.
Great. Chakshu, I'm going to come back to you about something. Before that, Sahan, would you like to go?
Yeah, hi. So the first thing what came to my mind after we spoke about, single gender and then going back to playing mixed gender was composure. The composure most of us had with the disc in a single gender tournament, and probably the factor of trust also plays in here, was a lot higher than compared to a mixed gender. Because I think most, I don't think I should talk about most girls, but at least me, I kind of get flustered on the field when I'm in a mixed gender sport. It's wrong, but maybe it's just, it's just like, oh my God, I might make a mistake. It's like a preconceived notion that, oh shit, you might make a, I'm sorry for the language, but it's like, oh, you might make a mistake, or this might not go right. So it may be also a me thing, right? Like I might do that mistake, so that is why I am not completely okay in that mixed gender role. At least this is my view about it. So I feel having that composure, or bringing that same composure while I'm playing a single gender a match, bringing that into a mixed gender match is very important. I don't know, I haven't figured it out how to yet, but I know a lot of the factors, play into it, but that's something what came into my mind.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else to add? It's not limited to the women. Sorry if I seemed biased, but it's not limited to the women. So guys, if you want to add, please go ahead. Samatwa, would you like to go?
Well, I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this. I wasn't there for
Your
single
thoughts.
gender regionals last time. So, but I mean, I think no. The only time I've played single gender was during Sakat, and personally, I didn't feel a lot of difference in terms of pressure. I was fairly new to the team at that point, and I was very focused on my own game and trying to just play my role and get better, regardless of single gender or mixed gender. I think that's probably one of the reasons, including the fact that I didn't play single gender. I didn't get a lot of experience on that front. Those are probably some of the reasons why I don't have, can't really tell the difference. So yeah, I don't really think yeah, I don't personally see a difference.
No worries at all. Manish, would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience?
Hey everyone. I didn't find any kind of difference between the playing like mixed gender. Like sometimes when the game's getting a little critical, I don't know, it's my mentality or something, but like when I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but when the disc goes to the girl, like I make sure that okay, I just give them a backup cover so that okay, something goes wrong, like okay, we could back them up and like we could get the game, the flow. And I didn't find any other difference about this.
Great. Thanks, Manish. Samatwa, you have a point to add. Would you like to go now?
Oh yeah, it's not really about this, but
fine.
yeah, cool. I can just quickly go. A lot of people talked about receiving and giving feedback. I think people made some very, very important points. What I've noticed personally is that when people talked about receiving feedback, I'm going to look at that from the point of giving feedback to people. Personally, I've noticed that a lot when giving feedback, to experience and skill level comes into play quite a bit. I would just as an example, I would feel very hesitant giving feedback to, for example, a Vijay or a Dhatri. They're a lot more experienced than me. It's not related to gender. They're just a lot more experienced than me. They're way more skilled. And so I naturally feel hesitant giving feedback in that scenario. But if there was someone, relatively new and maybe I might be slightly more skilled than them, I think I'd be a lot more open giving feedback to these people. And I think, I don't know how we do this, how people would become more confident with giving feedback. However, I do think that taking that step and figuring out ways where we could all become comfortable and confident giving feedback to anyone, regardless of gender, skill level, experience, only based on the fact whether that feedback is necessary at the time or not. I think if all of us could take that step, it would be it would help inclusivity in the team increase a fair amount. So I just want to add that point.
Great, thanks, Sam. And if I could dig a little deeper, why do you hesitate to share your feedback? Is it purely based on experience?
Yeah, yeah, I think, I mean, because, so I haven't really thought about it a lot, but off the top of my head, I might feel a little hesitant because I might make the assumption that, okay, because these guys are way more experienced, my feedback may not be exactly, how do you say, like, correct, or it may not help the game. These people probably know better, things like that, because they are more skilled and more experienced, and I feel like my feedback won't be valid in that scenario because of this fact. And yeah, so I think that's probably one, or the major reason.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sam. The other Sam has raised a hand. Would you like to go?
Yeah, thank you, Madhu. I have a question for Ananya, Samatwa, and any of the other, I guess, Ninja Hakori players. So you've talked about the difference between single gender and mixed gender, right? So I want to understand whether that applies to just Airbenders or whether that applies to your school teams as well, because I think that will help us understand whether it's a Airbenders thing or it's just, or it's a mixed gender thing, and I think that might help us.
Yeah, I could take that. So, like in school, at least, whenever we practice, we always play mixed. We never have anything called single gender, and on top of that, when we play mixed, we don't really play with a gender ratio either. It's like we just play guys get girls, girls get guys, or girls get girls, any possible combination. And like we make the matchups based on our perceived skill level of the other person. Like even if we think a guy can take this specific girl or a girl can take that specific guy, it's like that's how we do it. We don't really look at gender as, like as a barrier between choosing your matchup. So anyways, that's just another thing that we do. But in terms of mixed and single gender, since we don't really play like that, I don't think the idea of pressure being dependent on with whom we're playing, like that's never been an aspect of it at all. So yeah.
Thanks, Ananya. Samatha, do you have anything to add?
No, similar thoughts only. I was going to say that. I mean, we don't really have a comparison in school between single gender and mixed, and yeah, on top of that, mixed is like extra mixed. So yeah, I mean, like in terms of matchups and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we can really. Yeah.
Looking forward to some extra mixed games very soon, Babu. Meghna and Jaideep, I think you guys raised your hand. Would you like to pitch in?
Well, I just wanted to go back to what Manish said, right? Where he felt like when he was playing mixed, he feels like he needs to cover a girl or a female woman player. I just wanted to dig deeper and understand why he thinks that all women are going to mess up or make a mistake, and why women should be or are deserving of backups. Um, and I also want to tie that back to something Chakshu said a while earlier, right? So if you're going in thinking somebody is going to mess up, the probability of them messing up is going to be higher. I have seen some of my colleagues tell a girl before she's called on the line on Universe Point, don't drop it. You know, like what is that instruction? So I think already she's in this frame of mind of, oh my God, now, they expect me to drop it. Should I drop it? Should I hold it? Like, you're frazzling someone for absolutely no reason. But I just wanted to understand what it is about female players that inspires this doubt, so we can try to do something about it.
Great question, Megs. Manish, would you like to answer? I think, I mean, I would like to open this question to everybody after Manish. So,
it's not like it's not about the girls messing up the game. I don't know if it's the I can't blame everyone about this. Like, it's my mentality or something. The word biased. Okay, it's not even like that. It's it's just like, okay, the game should go in the flow, but when we're not doubting about how's the girl play, and it's my personal thinking about the game, like when it comes to mixed gender, because in the offside, like, okay, we gel up with the people, like, okay, we be having a good chemistry with them, and we know like how they play and all. But for a backup, okay, second thought about that. So that's what I prefer for, like, okay, at least we could give a support to them, like not all of them, like most of like some few girls, okay, like when it comes to a critical point, like, okay, when you're in the last in the end zone and you need to pass, and like some people panic out, and like it like mostly messes up. So at that moment, I want to give them a backup and all, but like I'm not even like trying to judge a girl like how they're playing, but just, like a secured. That's it.
Why do you think that happens, Manish? If it is indeed true women mess up in the end zone, why do you think that happens?
Uh, Seriously, I think it's I'm just seriously not know like what to tell for this question, because I think this is my kind of mentality. I don't want to judge other people like what my thinking like. So like I just want like to be secure. I don't know what to tell after this. It's not like judging them.
So if I understand this correctly, Manish, you feel like you being there, giving them an extra option is
something
to
like
give
that.
them some kind of protection, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think Meghna is asking, why do
Is
you
your
think?
defensive
Yeah, sorry.
Also there with you when you come to help this female player who could have made a sweet catch because she has separation, but then you
No,
decided to help
if she
her.
has a chance, I won't make her try to get through it. But like when it's at the critical point, like, okay, she's out of options. At that time, I come for like to help her out. And like, okay, the game is going with the flow. Okay, like the girls are playing good. Okay, let them go with the flow. Like I won't even interrupt to like, okay, I know in the between I'll go them and get the disc. They're playing the good game. Okay, they're playing going. I won't disturb. But when it's come to a critical point, like if they're in the stall 6 or 7 and they're out of options, at that time I meant.
So Manish, I think just to understand this better. Does this apply only to few girl players, or does it apply to only few players, regardless of the gender? Or, we're trying to understand, why do you feel like you need to go in there and protect somebody, or why do you need to go in there and save someone? Why do you think that person needs saving, right? And who are these people? Like, how do you what are the things that goes on in your head to choose this one person as somebody who needs saving?
It's not particular about one particular person. Like, okay, it might sound biased, okay, for you people, but like it's not the way what I think about it. And I just wanted to like help in the end of the period. That's the point I want to make, but like not about being a gender discrimination about the gameplay. It's not about that.
Vijay, would you like to go? Have you ever felt that people have come to save you in a game? You're on mute.
Maybe during the first year, when I was still learning Ultimate, but frankly, not much. No.
Bharat, would you like to answer? Sorry, Vijay, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, sorry. Bharat, would you like to go?
So yeah, it has happened to me a lot of times, and since I'm very new to this sport, I feel that is essential for me so that I don't make mistakes much often. So starting when I used to play Frisbee, my brother actually introduced me to the sport. So when I was playing in Chennai, he just used to get dumps as soon as he just throws the disc to me. So, but after I started improving myself, everyone started getting trusting me, and I feel like it's all part of the learning curve, where new players might need a little help in situations where they might find themselves stuck. So yeah, but it does not matter me because I felt that it was essential for me at that point. But even if someone tries to do that to me now, I don't think I'll be offended or whatever. So I just feel it's okay. Still, yeah. That's it.
Cool. I think you actually hit the nail on the head. I think it's got a lot to do with trust. And I think this urge to save a teammate from what we perceive as a critical situation or a dangerous situation, we believe that, I think this might be my opinion, but I think it comes from the fact that we think that person is not capable of handling the situation on their own, or that we as a club haven't equipped them to handle the situation on their own, that we think the rest of us have to go in there, swoop in and save them. But again, like I said, that might be my opinion. We can get back into discussing that further. Nikki, have you felt like people have come to save you in a session?
Yes, Madhu, a lot of times. I've either been asked, so this is again not pointing at someone, we are discussing a problem within our club, and I'm talking specific to our club. I'm not sure if this happens across all the ultimate teams, but yeah, I've either been asked to stay in the stack in crucial situations, or I've been said, okay, you have someone as a backup. All right, so yeah, I've definitely faced this. Initially it was a lot, and I'm not saying it hasn't improved at all. It has definitely improved, but I still see that even after having so many years of experience, the trust is not 100% for sure. And I don't know for what, it could be for various reasons, but yeah, to your question, I've definitely faced that situation, Madhu.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think Samatwa, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, I think what you and Bharat said, and Nikki as well, was definitely it has a lot to do with trust. And I think, like Vijay said, when I first joined, that happened a lot. So I mean, if you trust in someone's ability to, especially near the end zone, for example, when things might be crucial, you're just about to score, if everyone else trusts in someone's ability to make the right play, they're gonna let them do that. However, if that's not the case, it's likely that this would happen where you try to bail them out of that situation. And yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a thing, and it's also true from my experience that the more someone plays and the better they get, the more trust they gain as well from other people, especially in these kind of scenarios. And oh wait, okay, that was for that question. I thought it was, okay. Yeah, so yeah. I got scared. Yeah, so I think that builds with more sessions, experience, and everything. However, it brings about the point that I think if we could consciously make an effort to not do this, even with new players, I think the growth would be a lot faster and a lot more if even new players were allowed to take those decisions at those in those situations and not be immediately bailed out, especially in practice sessions for in the fear of making a mistake. I think that experience would be very helpful and would aid to the growth quite a bit. So I think it would be good to sort of stick to the system. Obviously, everybody, regardless of experience, needs a bailout at like stall 8, stall 9. So I think we should stick to the system. Normally, we do stall 4, look at the dump, and so regardless, beginner, experienced, we do that, and not just immediately look to bail someone out and get the disc away from them or off their hands just as they get the disc. So and that would aid their growth quite a bit. So I think that should be a conscious effort on everyone's part. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Babu. We shall end today's session. Thank you so much for being here for an hour and a half. Super happy that all of you are part of this conversation, and I think the only way we can make a change is if we all work on these things as a club. So please, I urge all of you to have a lot of conversations with your friends and your teammates. Push them to as much as you can within the comfort level, but push them to have some of the difficult conversations, see how they react, and be understanding, but let's have these conversations. I think that's the only way we're all going to get better. So see you all super soon. Take care. Have a good weekend.